Aryna Sabalenka was brutally retaliated upon by Eala. Yes, everything was captured on camera. Months ago, an angry handshake turned into a full-fledged feud that no one anticipated. It was more than just winning a game. It was about redemption, pride, and demonstrating that skill could subdue authority. Every serve and point felt like a statement as the two reconnected beneath the bright lights. However, the events of that evening stretched well beyond tennis. It turned into a lesson in control, anger, and retaliation. Because this was more than just a game to Alexa, it was retaliation. It all started on a muggy evening under the bright lights of Dubai a few months ago. With the same quiet concentration that had propelled her to junior championships and national prominence, Eala took the court. Aryna Sabalenka stood across the net, ferocious, strong, and unabashed to short. It was more than a match. A collision of planets occurred. Experience versus youth. Raw ferocity versus calm precision. The energy was tremendous from the very first serve. Eala's concordant court sense responded calmly to Sabalenka's force, which tore through the air like thunder. It seemed balanced for a while, but then Sabalenka started to perform her psychological trick. She grinned in between points. She may have celebrated too loudly, and Sabalenka's scowl across the net told it all when I missed a simple return.
You don't belong here.
Frustration started to creep in around the second set. The weight of expectations seemed to reverberate with every stroke I made. The crowd applauded the well-known performer's rather up-and-coming artist, who was still figuring things out. Cameras focused on her eyes, but they broke when they zoomed in. Sabalenka was adept at using that. She moved around the baseline with the authority of someone who had already written the conclusion, laughed after winners, and yelled after aces. Then came the turning point in the pointry, the match. Sabalenka ended it with a devastating forehand winner down the line in her typical brave manner, but Eala battled through 3 deuces, defending with absolute resolve. The audience burst out with her racket loose in her fingers. Eala stood motionless. The tension was thick enough to taste as they walked over to shake hands. "Welcome to the big leagues, kid," Sabalenka said in a whisper that only the microphones partially picked up. The smile then appeared. Millions of people would watch that arrogant, contemptuous grin on the internet for days. Eala, compelled to rebuild. Though her eyes sent a different message, Eala's silent transformation led back. Humiliation, annoyance, and something more profound raged beneath that composed countenance. A silent pledge. Eala ducked behind the cameras back in the locker room. Her phone kept buzzing as she sat silently with a towel over her head. Videos of the handshake had gone viral. Every frame was analyzed by fans. Some people defended her poise. Her silence was ridiculed by others. Sabalenka demonstrated her authority. A single comment give'd. "Give the time, time, time," said another. "You'll observe." I skimmed through it all that evening. Every highlight, every tweet, every dig about her lack of expertise. She refrained from crying. She refrained from snapping. Something had changed inside of her, so she just kept watching. She was not crushed by the loss. She was carved by it. Even sleep couldn't obscure the objective it engraved. She started mentally going over each point again, errors but as blueprints. Each failed shot served as a teaching moment. Each of Sabalenka's smirks turned into fuel. She disappeared from the public eye throughout the course of the following several days. No statements, no training videos, and no interviews. However, those who knew her well saw the shift. Her rallies became sharper and her workouts longer. Leaving and living uplifting messages instead of publicizing them. As he watched her from the other side of the floor, one of her instructors muttered, "Revenge. She is currently motivated. Why that?" He was correct, because after that night there was only one name engraved on every sweat drawer repetition, and every mark on her palm. Sabalenka. The cameras were unaware of it at the time. The fans were unprepared for it. However, Eala would not be a rising star the next time she played for Aryna Sabalenka. It would resemble a storm. Eala vanished after that evening in Dubai. Noise, Not just knees. Just silence. No press conferences, no interviews, no social media posts. However, something strong was developing Witquitud, a revenge. Revenge is bescold. Ved cold, they declared. A liked it earned. She practically and symbolically disappeared while the rest of the tennis world moved on. Her training base moved to Morca, where routine turned into an obsession and days stretched into nights. 6-hour meetings be battles emerged from matches versus practice partners. The coaches claimed they have never seen her like this. Ruthless, determined, unflappable. Eala referred to it as unfinished business, but her team called it the rebuild. Each morning began before the sun rose. With her eyes closed, she would stand at the baseline and mentally relive the handshake, Sabalenka's sly smile, and the whisper that whispered, "You're ready." She wasn't propelled by fury. It had a purpose. She had no intention of destroying Sabalenka. She desired to outdo her. It was more than just a physical change. It was psychological. She observed Sabalenka's serve rhythm, her breathing prior to a forehand, and the way she covered up drop shots. Eala didn't simply get ready to play her once more. She readied herself to compare. Next time was the whisper she said to herself after each missed shot during practice. After 5 hours on the court, her coach had attempted to stop her. Just looking up, Eala added, "Schlonger than longer than slonger." The didn't. When revenge hits the court, they debate once again. The sports community started to take notice of her absence. Fans were curious about her whereabouts. Rumors circulate. She's hurt.
She's exhausted.
She isn't confident. Confident. Those who had witnessed her training, however, were aware of this. There was a fire. It was simply concealed, ready to burst at the appropriate time. Then a clip appeared online one afternoon. A teammate shared a brief training video. Eala is using all of her strength to hit serves. Each one reverberated across the deserted indoor court like thunder. It just said, "She's calm, stronger." It became viral in a matter of hours. The comments came pouring in. "She has a different appearance. She is quite focused. Is Sabalenka the subject of this?" It was never verified by Eala.
She didn't have to.
The story was told by the eyes, more deliberate, colder, and sharper. Her colleagues also observed the change. Once doubting her own time, the girl now sought perfection. The person who once grinned under duress now gazed through it. "Find me her bracket" was her only response when her coach asked if she was prepared to resume the tour. And that's precisely what fate did. The Madrid Open WTA draw was dropped a few weeks later. Sabalenka and Eala are in the same section. A quarterfinal matchup was certain if they both made it. The internet went crazy. It was dubbed the revenge run by sports media. "Can I redeem herself against the Titan?" was the headline, and it remained unresponsive. She merely trained. She didn't post or comment. Her pulse, however, accelerated behind the placid exterior. This was it. She knew the narrative had written itself, and the journey had circled back. She would now have to deal with the Eala she never anticipated. The same woman who had once made fun of her. This time, no fear, she muttered as she gazed into the mirror in the locker room prior to her first game. That week, every swing had a purpose. Each victory brought the inevitable collision one step closer. She was questioned by reporters about the handshake, the murmurs, and the rivalry. "I'm not thinking about the past," Eala said with a courteous grin. "I'm considering my next move," but the truth was known by all. Her history came next. The cameras would soon be able to see that it was going to catch Fythison. The fans wowed. Sense it, and the tempest that Eala had been brewing for months was about to blow when she finally stood across the net from Sabalenka once more. The Madrid venue has a thick atmosphere. That silence that exists in the space between chaos and expectation. Every seat was packed with fans, phones out, and hearts pounding. It was finally time for the contest that everyone had been anticipating. Aryna Sabalenka versus Alex Yolin. Reputation versus retaliation. Pure strength versus calm precision. You could sense the change as soon as you stepped onto the court. Eala did not wave or grin. Her unblinking, unfathomable gaze was fixed directly as internet with her racket thumping repeatedly on her thigh. Sabalenka, on the other hand, entered like a hurricane. She smiled briefly, the same smirk from Dubai, as if she were still in control of the situation. However, she didn't own the moment this time. The match's opening serve reverberated like a gunshot. With aggressive opening moves, Sabalenka slammed aces and yelled, "Internet explosion," and fallout after each point. Eala, however, did not recoil. She glided with the fluidity and calmness of water. Every rally became a struggle of wills. The glare followed. Eala completed one of the opening set's longest points with a laser forehand down the line. After 23 strokes of unwavering accuracy, the audience burst out. She didn't simply turn away for the first time. She stared directly at Sabalenka, silent, calm, and icy. Just that glance spoke it all. "I'm not the same Dubai girl." Instantly, cameras zoomed in. In a matter of minutes, the video went viral on Twitter. According to one post, Eala simply gave Sabalenka the death gaze. "That's the look of revenge," remarked another. The game got more intense. Sabalenka attempted to overwhelm her, but Eala continued to take the blows and expertly return them. It was tennis masquerading as chess. Sabalenka tried to frighten her opponent by yelling and clenching her fist, but I became her shield. During the middle of the second set, an extraordinary event occurred. After dropping consecutive points, Sabalenka became irate and threw her racket into the court. The audience let out a gasp. Eala did not respond. She just went to the baseline, hit an ace down the middle, and bounced the ball 3 times. It was her quickest serve of the competition. The stadium blew apart. Sabalenka gaped in shock. Eala did not rejoice. That one was for Dubai, she seemed to convey with a single nod. Every moment was captured by the cameras, the message, the calm, the glare. The moment was replayed in slow motion by broadcasters who referred to it as the tipping point. The anxiety had peaked by the time the last set started. Every rally felt intimate, each point like a shot-by-shot exchange between competitors. Ia broke Sabalenka's serve at 54 with a scorching backhand winner that painted the line, keeping Sabalenka in the match. Set match. Eala the chair umpire yelled. The audience went crazy, a drop to her knees, not in shock, but in relief. This was the result of months of training, humiliation, and quiet. Sabalenka hesitated as they made their way to the net. This time, there was only a silent acknowledgement, no sneer or murmur. Eala held out a steady, solid, almost royal hand. Sabalenka accepted it. Every viewpoint had cameras flashing. "Welcome back to mine," you said in a barely heard whisper that was picked up by the sideline microphone as soon as their hands were released. In a matter of minutes, the internet exploded. Every platform was overrun with videos headlined "Cold Revenge Moment." What she meant was disputed among fans. It was dubbed poetic justice by analysts. However, the significance was evident to those who had followed the journey. This was not conceit. It brought about closure. Eala didn't yell. She refrained from gloating with the serene contentment of someone who didn't require approval. She left the court because loss was not captured by the cameras this time. They succeeded in capturing redemption. But the tale was far from finished because the world always has something to say when retaliation takes place on a global scale. The world went into overdrive just minutes after the last handshake. Millions of people have already uploaded, analyzed, and discussed every angle, gaze, whisper, and breath of that match. Within an hour, the word Eala's revenge started to trend on the truth behind revenge all around the world. Videos of her frigid gaze went viral on TikTok and Twitter, where they were slowed down and tagged with phrases like "Queen Energy," "Cold," and "Faitheth." The final handshake was looped by others who focused on the precise moment she uttered, "Welcome back to mine." It didn't even matter that no one could agree on what she meant. The moment grew beyond the actual match. Sports stores flourished. It was dubbed a rivalry reborn by ESPN. It's the emergence of a new mental titan, according to Tennis Channel. Players also voiced their opinions. "She's not a kid anymore," tweeted Coco Golf. Even though Anjabir shared a straightforward fire emoji, not everyone was applauding. Fans of Sabalenka retaliated right away. Eala was accused of being conceited and making fun of a champion. "Disrespect or dominance" was the headline of one Belarusian publication. Eala goes too far. The story abruptly broke in two. One fan referred to her as a hero, while another referred to her as frigid. Every time someone complimented her poise, someone else accused her of taking excessive revenge. However, Eala remained silent the entire time. She didn't share anything. She didn't answer. She didn't even acknowledge the sound. She went back to training the following morning as if nothing had happened. Despite social media burning all around her, the world, however, was unwilling to change. The handshake was repeatedly reenacted by analysts. Lip reading, slow motion, and frame-by-frame analysis. They made a documentary out of a whisper. In reality, what did she say? Was it prearranged? Was it strategic or emotional? The narrative took on a life of its own. Talk programs discussed her mindset. Her calmness was praised by several former players, while others cautioned her not to let pride get in the way. However, the one person who could put an end to the mayhem failed to do so. The interview with Sabalenka followed. She gave a slight smile as she sat in front of reporters. When she originally commented, "She played great," the tactful response that veterans make when their pride still, however, the question that everyone had been waiting for was finally posed during the handshake. "Did Eala treat you disrespectfully?" After pausing and glancing down, Sabalenka chuckled quietly. She expert thoughts. "It hots. I appreciate that," she said, but she ought to be aware. "I also have trouble forgetting things." The fire was rekindled by that one line. Fans were now referring to it as a developing rivalry.